it could really be the best book ever written on Tazkiyah and the most comprehensive one. It really stands out because of its first authenticity. The content of this book is in accordance with the Aqeedah of al-Sunnah wal-Jama'ah, the early generations. It really avoids all deviance, any heretical aspects to Aqeedah, belief, or worship, practice, or anything. So that's one of the points of excellence about this book. Another reason is that it's fairly comprehensive. It is fairly comprehensive, as it covers, as we said, about 100 of the stations that the heart travels through. And we said these stations really stand for actions of the heart or their accompanying states. As we mentioned, states of the actions of the heart, which are connected to the speech of the heart, obviously, there are states that are associated with them. And these states have a taste. They offer an experience. So the stations are about this, are about the actions themselves, actions of the heart, or about the states that are associated with them. So it covers those 100 that were, again, pointed out mainly by Al-Imam Abu Ismail al-Harawi, who lived about 3 centuries before Ibn al-Qayyim. And his book, Madarij Al Salikeen, was really accepted by pretty much everyone. I would say the good guys and the bad guys. It was accepted. But again, we said a group of people who are called متفلسفة الصوفية أو صوفية الفلاسفة, which is basically the philosophical mystics. And these are people who did not, because generally Sufism, Tasawwuf, they emphasized mainly the practical or the practice aspect of Tazkiyah, which is to engage in worship. So for the most part, most of those who engaged in any Sufi order or tariqah, there were people who really engaged in worship for the most part. And the intellectual component, the philosophical component of Tasawwuf, for the most of the population of the mystics was minimal. But at a later stage, a lot of those who had a background in philosophy started getting into Tasawwuf. And they had a huge influence. And anyone who has a background in Tasawwuf, in philosophy, they have, because the roots of philosophy really trace back mainly to the Greek philosophers, and they're also Eastern philosophies, which were there among the Persians. The Persians had versions of that. So there was a lot of carry over or crossover from those philosophical traditions into the practice of Tasawwuf. Thus, they were called the mystic philosophers. Such they were called. Okay, among them are famous names. Some of the famous names, especially the ones who are very prolific, who wrote a lot. We mentioned Ibn Arabi, Ibn al-Hallaj, Ibn Sab'in, Jalal al-Din Rumi, Shams al-Din al-Tabrizi, al-Farabi, al-Bayruni, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and actually many others, who actually put a new twist on Tasawwuf. And the biggest criticism against them has always been, the biggest blunder has been the unity of being, which is again suggests that nothing exists in this world but Allah. And all what we see and we call creation is not separate from Allah, is actually a manifestation of Allah. What does it mean to be a manifestation of Allah for them? It really means they don't mean they are created by Allah, so that Allah is their source in the sense He's their creator. No, they actually say that they still carry the very nature, the very divine nature of Allah. So they are in a way segments of Allah, parts of Allah. A'udhu billah. That's all blasphemous, right? There's been a lot of debate whether their language is just symbolic and you can't read it at that surface level. They actually mean something else other than what you understand. So this has been an argument among Muslim scholars. This is a good background to understand because these issues will come up in the book. So it's good that we have a good understanding of them. So there has been a debate about Muslims. Shall we treat these people or their statements based on face value, or should we just relegate the meanings to them and just give them the benefit of the doubt? Scholars have differed, but the majority of scholars say, many scholars said we don't need to judge them as a person, but what is important for us is the statements and the books that they left behind. These statements, the majority of Muslim scholars, they call them outright kufr, outright disbelief. Okay, some scholars tried to find some excuses for them. They said, oh, they don't mean this apparent meaning. They have very hidden meaning, and only they or their people can decipher these meanings. Imam al-Dhahabi, who's the great biographer, right? Imam al-Dhahabi, he wrote so many books like Siyar A'lam al-Nubala, an encyclopedia about the lives of Muslim scholars and personalities and everything. So he has a very good judgment of people. He tried his best to give the benefit of the doubt to such mystic philosophers. He tried to give the best interpretation, to the point where it makes a lot of excuses for Ibn Arabi. Okay, Ibn Arabi. But he gets to a point where he talks about his book, the book of Ibn Arabi, Al-Fusus, and he comes to a statement. He quotes a statement, and he says, Dhahabi says this statement in Arabic. He says, إن لم يكن هذا الكلام كفرا فليس في الدنيا كفر. He says, if this statement is not kufr, then there is no kufr in existence. Then there is no kufr in reality. Okay, that's after trying to really give excuses as much as possible. So what is the approach to this? And by the way, these philosophies still exist until today. Most of the Sufi orders in the past few hundred years have disconnected from this unity of being, which is very good. And it remained with some individuals. Okay, it remained with some individuals. But it was brought back again to the Sufi circles, to the mystics, to the society of Muslim mystics today, through the popularization of New Age, spirituality, Buddhism, and Taoism, and some Hinduism and yoga. So it has been reintroduced. And manifestations of this is the law of attraction or manifestation. They say you manifest your destiny. Why? Because you're actually part of God. And if you connect back to your source, to your God, you actually tap into the will of God, the universal will of God that shapes everything. So basically, when you align your imagination with the will of God, it flows through you because you are originally part of God, and you remove the resistance that separated you from God. So now you are aligned, you are in alignment with the divine will. And that's why the things that you're able to manifest, you're able to say to things be, and they become. But you need to have your mind in the right place. So a lot of Muslims don't understand what is underneath this, what's behind it. And they started quoting some hadith where Allah, divine hadith, where Allah says, "Ana inda dhanni abdi bi," I am to my servant as my servant thinks of me. But the meanings are not identical. They're not identical. The manifestation or the law of attraction, all of this is based on a false belief that there is nothing in existence but God, but Allah, and all you see are parts of God. So somehow they were separated from God, but you can reconnect and become again part of God. And when you do this, your will manifests. So to get back to the original conversation, so this is why this book really stands out and is considered to be, like Madarij Al Salikeen, the best, really, probably, I would say arguably, the best book on Tazkiyah. And the third reason it really stands out is that this first, Ibn al-Qayyim speaks from first-hand experience. And he's not just a worshipper or a person who has, Allah has blessed with a lot of Tazkiyah, but he is a scholar of the highest caliber. He's a scholar of the highest level. And his life is a clear reflection of his teachings. Like, he lived by his word. Okay, so that gives depth and authenticity to what he teaches. And mostly you can sense he's actually speaking from a first-hand experience. He's not just quoting stuff. He's not just conveying knowledge that he read or memorized. He's digested all of this. He reached a deep level of understanding, and he's lived that. He has lived this, and he has experienced that for a long time. And now he is speaking from a first-hand personal experience. So this is why I would say these are reasons really to give this, or to make this book, as I said, probably the best book ever written in Tazkiyah. Again, the modern reader is not going to find it as easy as modern books, that we love them to be very, very structured. And as we said, although this makes learning easier, but it is very limiting. It is very limiting. So the book is more organic in its approach. The structure is more subtle rather than obvious. So we will try to see how we can deal with it. Let me get into the slides. So we just have a good idea of what we're trying to do with this book. So today we are actually talking about, we might actually get into the book today. I'll see. So we are talking about how to study Madarij Al Salikeen. This is our third session in this series. And we might, by the way, slowly, we might allocate a separate session for Madarij Al Salikeen so we can have more time with it, inshallah ta'ala. The book, as I said, it's already way very long, right? So we need to approach it wisely so we don't, we want the effort to continue. We don't want it to fall apart. We said simply, this is what the book is made of. These are the main components of the book. The introduction, which is about 9 pages or less. Then commentary on Surah Al-Fatiha. And Ibn al-Qayyim really makes Surah Al-Fatiha the foundation for all Tazkiyah. Okay, and he actually builds the whole book on one verse. إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدْ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينَ. So he says all of the actions of the heart, all of the stations of the heart, or the states of the heart, are actually found in this verse. إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدْ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينَ. Then he starts the book, and as we said, he already had an original plan for the book to write his own original text, with you having his own order, improvised order of the stations. So he already started speaking about 9 stations, but then he changed his mind and he decided instead to comment on the book of Abu Ismail al-Harawi, which is called Manazil al-Sa'irin, which actually makes the rest of the book. Cool. So that's pretty much the sequence. And as we said, the book is 4 volumes in the copy that I have. Introduction is about 9 pages, I believe. Surah Al-Fatiha. I forgot, but again, many pages. But then the stations, again, also many pages. But this is half of these first 3 components are half of the first volume, are just half, or maybe even less than half of the first volume. 3.5 volumes are the rest of the stations, which are about 91 stations. We said the main themes in the book is Tazkiyah, the foundations, methods, processes. He talks about the stations themselves, and this is how the book is structured. The book is structured as chapters. Each chapter talks about a station, okay, which he names Madarij, okay, Madarij, like ascending steps, ascending steps. So he called the singular is Madarij. Madarij is 1 step, okay. So he calls the stations as ascending steps. The original book that he's commenting on calls them manazil, stations. But they mean the same thing, essentially. And then Ibn al-Qayyim calls out all of the wrong practices and beliefs and the false interpretations of the original book. He calls them out, he challenges them, he debates them. Okay, we will be careful when we deal with those debates, because some of these arguments have really, like, they no longer exist, so we don't need to go deeper into them. We just read the text and make very brief commentary to contextualize it. But when some of those deviations are relevant to our times, or somehow we have a version of them in our modern times, we will, inshallah, comment on them and point this out, inshallah ta'ala. So what should we get from the book? I would say mainly focus on the spirit of the book. As I said, Ibn al-Qayyim speaks from first-hand experience. He does convey, actually, he does codify his, the state of his heart in his writings. And that's something that Ibn al-Qayyim really stands out in. He had this gift. He was able to encapsulate the state that he was experiencing in his writings. He was able to do this. It's evident in pretty much all of his books and in the majority of the texts that he's written. There are some pages that are not as good as his average, but generally speaking, Ibn al-Qayyim is able to pull you into his heart and give you an experience. And often the translations miss out on this. This translation of Madarij Al Salikeen is very good. It manages to capture some of that, okay, which makes it good. It manages to capture some. What's the percentage? I'm not sure. But inshallah, we'll see. We can comment on this. At the beginning, the translation sounds a bit too academic. I mean, it remains very academic, and it uses a lot of sophisticated words. But again, inshallah, it's still doable, and it's really the best. Alhamdulillah, it stands out. So as we engage with the book, we want to keep in mind that we are actually one of the biggest, I would say the biggest takeaway is really the state, or the heart state of Ibn al-Qayyim. Okay. The second one is actually the main theme of every chapter. So we want to really get the general understanding, and I would say we want to get an organic understanding of those stations. So this is where our commentary will focus, inshallah ta'ala. Bear with me. Yeah, as we engage with the book, please keep in mind the framework of the heart. We mentioned many times that people actually try to study the book, and most of them don't go past the first few pages. And the reason is, as we read, by the way, subhanAllah, we're not only receiving, we are projecting. Our mental structures we use that to frame the book, to frame whatever we read. So if we have a good framework in our minds, and it becomes the lens through which we read the book. Most people fail to continue with the book or to read the whole book or really to benefit from the book, is that they approach the book without any framework. But Ibn al-Qayyim has a consistent framework in the background of everything he writes. And this is what we've been studying in the Tazkiyah course, by the way. So keep that in mind. You'll be surprised how much you actually understand the book. It will make so much sense. It's like you're speaking to someone that you know, a friend. So people, when they approach the text without a framework, the book confuses them, and they find it hard to relate. And many times it won't make sense. The reason is there is lack of this, foundation of a common language, and lack of a structure that helps you interpret the book. And what it does, let me put it this way. Imagine you walk into a room that is full of toys, and the toys are all over the place. It's a mess. And imagine there is a closet that is very well organized, and you can actually take all of these toys and put them where they belong in the closet. And when you put them in the closet, it's a beautiful scene. They're very well, like they're tidy, they're organized, and they are appealing. Visually, they are appealing. That's what the framework does. It's more like the closet, compared to when you walk into a room and the ties are all over the place. That's the difference between approaching the book with this kind of framework versus approaching the book thinking you're going to make sense of it. Ibn al-Qayyim put so much content in this book, and he speaks at different levels. So if you don't have an organizing framework for that, or if you don't have the right organizing framework for that, it will be confusing and it will be overwhelming. This is why most people, once they are a few pages into the book, they transition to something else. Okay. So the framework is this about the heart. You will find Ibn al-Qayyim speaks, he will use language, and we will point it out, inshallah ta'ala. I think a lot of my focus will be doing this for you, bridging, the gap between what he says and the underlying framework. When he speaks about speech of the heart, belief, he calls it knowledge sometimes, he calls it understanding, he calls it also knowledge, understanding, beliefs. Sometimes he calls it speech of the heart itself, and sometimes he calls it the mind, okay, logic, all of that, okay. And then, or sometimes he calls it as well light, okay. Sometimes he calls it light, the light in the heart, the light that comes from Allah. And he talks about the actions of the heart and the connected states, okay. And he will he will refer to them as actions of the heart. He will refer to them by calling them individually, as when he says love, when he says irada, like the will, the intention, or he will speak about, for example, tawakkul as an action of the heart. And then he will speak about the external actions and words. So inshallah, we will, if you have this in the background, you can actually consider this to be the magnifying glass that you read these words with. It will just make things clear for you, inshallah ta'ala. Okay, so how should we deal with the book? I would recommend that you actually read a few pages before we get into them. It will help a lot. Now, a word of warning, the translation, especially of the introduction, is... So Ibn al-Qayyim is known for his introductions. They are very poetic, they are very symbolic, and they really introduce the book nicely, but not everyone gets them. They rhyme a lot. Like pretty much all his books are like this. So I'm sure it was a big challenge for the translator really to capture it, and you will find that it's culturally specific. It's very Arabic, but he does a good job conveying it in English, but it will not be easy.